Okay, this is my video on Reconstruction. Reconstruction was a period of time after the Civil War between the North and the South over slave rights and slavery, most of it. Reconstruction basically was not only putting the North and South back together and uniting them as the United States again, it was redoing some of the laws and some of the rights for everybody legally, including the slaves and things like that. So, it was kind of like sealing the deal of the Civil War. You know, I tell you I'm going to buy you a guitar, and you get all your stuff ready, and then I buy you the guitar. That would be the Reconstruction. That would be me doing the act. Basically, what happened was they started the Reconstruction, and Andrew Johnson came into presidency after Abraham Lincoln was shot. And Andrew Johnson started to try to put the power back into the South states of choosing the rights of the slaves. It didn't take the slaves' rights away. It allowed for the owners to choose the rights for them, is what was happening. And it was unfortunate because everybody was so excited, and it just kind of turned around like that, and it went back to its normal state at the time. After Andrew Johnson, I wouldn't say he was unsuccessful, because he did get somewhere, but he didn't fully complete his plan. Ulysses S. Grant came into presidency, and he didn't fix it completely, but he set everything back on track. To where the slaves would have the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments of being an American citizen, the right to vote, freedom of speech, that kind of thing. Allowing them to be a full American citizen with all of the rights and amendments for it. And not being a slave, not being a secondary living thing in America, but a living person, a living part of society, I guess you could say. Along that, though, unfortunately came people trying to take advantage of the system, people like carpetbaggers, and they were taking advantage of the system, and they were allowing they confuse me sometimes, but basically they were moving from the North to the South, and they were taking advantage of the newly formed laws and the weak society, and coming from the North, a strong society at the time, because they had just won the war. And just kind of taking advantage of it, grabbing them by their neck and squeezing them, just like nana, and taking their money, things like that. And then there's sharecropping, which I would beg to differ wasn't slavery. Some people say it was a form of slavery that still kept colored people in the grasps of white people. But I think that it wasn't slavery. It wasn't, it's just like labor work today. Other than, it's like going and working on a ranch. Basically, sharecropping is when the people live on the farm, and they do their daily duties of working on the crop, and they get a certain percentage of the profit that the farm gets. And it wasn't just colored people that were doing this, Not only did it offer profit and a place to live, but it also gave you something to do, not only that, but it allowed for a way of life. It was a way of life for a lot of people. And some people think that it was unfair for black people because at this time it just switched it around, where they couldn't just go out and walk into any side store and turn in their resume and say, "Hey man, I want a job." They legally, slaves still had the same rights, and there wasn't segregation, but that didn't change people's opinions. It's not like overnight people were like, oh, never mind. It just made it difficult for them, and in a way, people think that they were trapped in this way of life of still having to work on the farm and living there. But I think that if they really wanted to, they could have left, even knowing it may have been harsh. I still would argue against the fact that it's slavery. It may have been taking advantage of their situation, their poor situation, but it wasn't slavery. They were paying them and allowing them of a place to sleep, which they did before, but, an actual sturdy place to sleep, not just hay bales outside or in a barn. It was a rough time. Reconstruction wasn't just putting the building blocks back together. It wasn't just building the building that got knocked over. You had to redo the foundation. You had to redo beams. It may have looked like the same building, but it's much stronger this time. It won't be knocked down as easily the next time. And there will be a next time, unfortunately, because people will always have their own opinions, and their opinions will always clash. It's just how the cookie crumbles.